Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories. Please like and subscribe, and hit that notification icon so you never miss out. Now on with the stories.
Our HOA had received so many complaints over the years, they'd given up issuing warnings. They'd just straight up ignore them now. My husband and I bought a condo in June 2021. It was a bit smaller, but we didn't mind. We used the extra cash from our last home to treat ourselves. A sleek new TV, plush couches, and a top-of-the-line purple mattress. I swear, that bed felt like sleeping on a cloud, absolutely amazing. A few weeks after we settled in, I started poking around about the HOA. I thought it might be useful to know what kind of people were running the show. I found their Facebook page and immediately spotted the low 2-star rating. I started scrolling, looking for any good tea, when one review grabbed my attention. The seller, the one we bought from, had posted back in 2018. She was complaining about a roof leak and mold issues that had apparently been going on since 2013. I nearly dropped my phone. Florida has strict disclosure laws for these things, and she hadn't mentioned any of it when we were buying. Just to be safe, I took a screenshot, figuring it might come in handy down the road if something went wrong. Then I tried to forget about it. Maybe it was finally fixed. Fast forward to late 2021. We're asleep one night when I feel something cold and damp on the blanket. I reach up and drip, a drop of water lands on my hand. I blink awake, furious, but I try to shake it off, and I somehow drift back to sleep. The following week, it happens again. Another drip from the ceiling, right on our bed. This time, I didn't wait. I called the HOA and left a message, explaining the leak and asking them to look into it. No one called back. Weeks go by, then months. It's March now, and I finally get someone on the phone. I go over the whole issue again, and she assures me she'll open a work order. I start to breathe easier, thinking, okay, maybe they're finally taking this seriously. But of course, that was just the beginning. A month goes by with no action, and the small bubble forming in our ceiling gets worse. At this point, I'm starting to see that we're about to have the same nightmare the previous owner had faced. I decide it's time to get a paper trail going, so I email the HOA. And it begins. Months of back-and-forth emails, unanswered calls, half-baked promises to open a work order that seemed to lead nowhere. I'd call, they'd reassure me, then go dark. Repeat, repeat, repeat. By May or June of 2022, the leak has gotten so bad, we can't even sleep in our bed anymore. My husband and I start camping out on the couches in the living room every night. Eventually, we buy a queen mattress and cram it into our daughter's room. Imagine that. 2 adults, a child, and a makeshift bed all squeezed into one tiny room. That was our life. Twice now, roofers have shown up at our door, unannounced, to patch the ceiling. Each time, I'd grill them, asking, is the outside fixed? And both times, they'd nod and assure me, yep, it's all taken care of. But then, the next time it rained, the ceiling would start leaking again, right through their patchwork. I lost it when I saw the water dripping onto our $3,000 bed, now shoved aside, ruined. It wasn't just the bed. My books, too, ones I'd treasured for years, were warped and ruined from the moisture. We tried every avenue we could think of. I called legal aid, but they didn't handle our type of case. They pointed us to the Florida bar, who took a $50 fee and never contacted us again. Real estate lawyers wanted thousands, $3,000, $5,000, even $10,000 up front. We're low income. We don't have that kind of money. And then, as if things couldn't get worse, the HOA decided to jack up our dues in January, jumping from $254 a month to $381. No notice, nothing, just an extra bill in the mail. And on top of that, they announced another round of special assessments. I assumed, maybe this time, they were finally going to fix the roof on our building. But no, of course not. Our building wasn't even on the list. I started feeling like we were in an impossible game, one where the rules kept changing to keep us losing. I was at my breaking point when I thought of one last move. I'd heard I could contact the HOA's liability insurance and file a claim. Maybe that would shake them up enough to fix the roof. But just as I was about to go through with it, I found a lawyer who specialized in suing HOAs and thankfully, worked on contingency. I was done bluffing. I signed the paperwork. It was game on. Then, things took a turn I didn't see coming. By November, our lives were already chaotic, but we had no idea what was about to hit. I came home one day to find a woman with a clipboard standing on our doorstep. She was from DCF. Apparently, there were some unrelated concerns that had been reported, but she took one look around and noticed the leaking roof, the ceiling patches, the bed shoved against the wall, ruined and untouched. Her face said it all. She wasn't happy. She gave me a number for the property management team, told me to follow up, and then dropped a bombshell. Until the roof was fixed, my daughter couldn't stay in the condo. I called my lawyer in a panic, leaving a message at his office. You have to understand, I told them, this isn't just about the leak now. They're keeping my child out of her own home. It felt surreal, this new layer of nightmare. I couldn't believe that a failing roof and some busted pipes had spiraled into a situation where DCF was now involved. As soon as I hung up, I filed a complaint with city code enforcement. By this point, I was practically begging the universe for some kind of help, something, anything, that would light a fire under the HOA. I imagined the HOA board members sitting around, smug and comfortable, in their dry homes, while we were pushed to the limit. My lawyer finally got back to me. He listened as I poured out the latest developments, and his voice turned hard. This changes everything, he said. He was furious. He assured me he'd do everything in his power to bring this situation to light. I could almost feel the momentum building as he mapped out his plan. We'd bring in the state, DCF, city code enforcement, every resource at our disposal. I can't tell you how much I wanted to confront the HOA board face to face, to see if they had the nerve to justify this insanity. I pictured myself standing in front of them in one of their meetings, maybe even waving a bucket full of the rainwater that had dripped into our bed, my books, our home. I could see it, me shouting, "How can you sleep at night, knowing what your neglect is costing us?" I knew they wouldn't have an answer. For now, it's a waiting game. I'm hoping the lawsuit, the complaints, the involvement of the state, all of it will force their hand. And while I'm forced to wait, we're squeezed into my mother-in-law's house, trying to keep things together while our lives are left hanging in limbo. The irony is, if they just fixed the roof in the first place, all of this could have been avoided. But they wanted to play hardball. Now they've got it. I'm not your lawyer and I'm not licensed in Florida, but I've got some important advice for you. There's a ticking clock you need to be aware of when it comes to suing the previous owner of your condo. Every state has what we call a statute of limitations. It's basically a deadline for filing lawsuits. In your case, since the previous owner didn't disclose the leak issues, you might have grounds for a lawsuit against them. But here's the catch. You've only got a limited amount of time to file that suit. Once that time's up, you're out of luck, no matter how strong your case might be. That's why it's crucial you talk to your attorney about this ASAP. They'll know exactly how long you've got under Florida law. Don't wait on this. The clock started ticking the day you bought the place. Your lawyer can help you weigh the pros and cons of pursuing action against the previous owner alongside your case against the HOA. Just make sure you get on this quick before time runs out. That Facebook post is crucial evidence, so make sure you protect it. It's your smoking gun to prove the previous owners knew about the problem and failed to disclose it. Don't rely solely on a screenshot. Take multiple precautions to preserve this vital information. First, print out a physical copy of the post. This gives you a tangible record that can't be accidentally deleted or corrupted. Next, save a digital copy on a USB drive. This provides an offline backup that's not dependent on internet access or the post remaining online. Keep monitoring the original post online too. The previous owners might not realize you have this information and could try to delete it if they catch wind of potential legal action. By keeping tabs on the live post, you'll be aware if any changes occur. This evidence could be a game changer in negotiations. The previous owners might be more willing to settle out of court to avoid their own legal fees once they realize you have solid proof of their non-disclosure. If you like our stories, then please like and subscribe and comment, and remember to hit that bell icon so you never miss out. We have new stories almost every day. I never thought I'd be in this mess. It all started when a pipe burst in the wall between my condo and my neighbor's place. At first, I didn't think much of it. Just a little water, right? Wrong. It turned into a full-blown flood, and before I knew it, my condo was a soggy disaster. I called the HOA management company right away. They sent over a plumber, who took one look at the situation and said, "Yep, this is definitely coming from your neighbor's unit." Great, I thought. At least it's not my fault. But then things got complicated. The neighbor, let's call him Mr. DIY Disaster, refused to let anyone into his condo to fix the pipe. Can you believe it? Here I am with water pouring through my walls, and this guy's acting like Fort Knox. So what did they do? They cut out my freaking shower to get to the pipe? My beautiful bathroom, destroyed. And my bedroom? Forget about it. Water damage everywhere. I thought, okay, this sucks, but at least the HOA will take care of it quickly. Ha! That's when the real fun began. The management company got bids from 2 different repair companies. We're talking serious money here, minus $8,000 to $9,000 worth of repairs. I figured they'd get right on it. Nope, the board needs to approve the repairs, they kept telling me. Day after day, I'd call, and it was always the same story. We're waiting for board approval. I tried to reason with them. Look, I said, this isn't just a little inconvenience. I don't have a bathroom. I don't have a bedroom. I'm living in a construction zone here. They just shrugged it off. We understand your frustration, but our hands are tied until the board approves the repairs. I decided to go straight to the board. Big mistake. They refused to hold an emergency meeting. Can you believe that? My condo is in shambles, and they can't be bothered to have a quick meeting? Then, to add insult to injury, they canceled the regular meeting. At this point, I was livid. What am I supposed to do? I yelled into the phone. Live like this indefinitely? The response? We're sorry for the inconvenience. We'll address this at the next meeting. The next meeting? Which, by the way, would be past the 1-month mark of me living in this disaster zone. 1 whole month without a bathroom or bedroom. 1 month of showering at the gym and sleeping on my couch. I asked about alternative housing. Surely they'd cover that, right? Wrong again. That's not our responsibility, they said. I wanted to scream. So here I am, living in my busted-up condo, feeling like I'm in some kind of twisted camping trip gone wrong. The worst part, the smell. You never realize how much you appreciate dry walls until you're living with damp ones. I decided to call my insurance company. Maybe they could help. The first person I talked to was about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Sorry, they said, it wasn't your pipe, so we can't help. I wasn't having it. I asked to speak to someone higher up. Finally, a glimmer of hope. This new person actually seemed to know what they were talking about. We can get involved, they said, and go after the responsible party. Music to my ears. But then I started worrying. What if I get screwed over even more? I mean, this whole situation is already a nightmare. The last thing I need is for my insurance rates to skyrocket or something. I pulled out the HOA rules and regulations. There it was, in black and white. Leaks affecting 2 or more households, and which cannot be traced to the activities, improper use, or negligence of a single household, are determined to have occurred in common area plumbing fixtures and are the responsibility of the association. I read it over and over. It seemed pretty clear to me. This leak definitely affected 2 households, mine and Mr. DIY Disasters, and while it might have been caused by his shoddy workmanship, it wasn't exactly traceable to a single household's activities or negligence. At least, not in a way that was immediately obvious. Plus, I had the plumber's report. It clearly stated that the HOA had claimed responsibility, and it also mentioned that it was the neighbor's pipe. Seemed like a slam dunk to me, but still, I couldn't shake this feeling of unease. I've heard too many horror stories about insurance claims gone wrong. And let's face it, the HOA hasn't exactly been a bastion of fairness and efficiency so far. I decided to confront the HOA board directly. I showed up at one of their houses, probably not my smartest move, but I was desperate. Look, I said, shoving the rules and regulations under their nose. It says right here that this is your responsibility. Why aren't you doing anything? The board member, let's call him Mr. Bureaucracy, just blinked at me. We're following proper procedures, he said, like he was reading from a script. Proper procedures? I exploded. I've been living without a bathroom for weeks. How is that proper? He had the audacity to look offended. We have to consider all aspects of the situation, he said. We can't just rush into decisions. Rush? I was practically shouting now. It's been almost a month. How is that rushing? Mr. Bureaucracy just shook his head. I understand you're upset, but we have to follow our processes. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took a deep breath and tried a different approach. Okay, let's talk about these processes. What exactly is holding things up? He hesitated, then said, well, we're not entirely sure if this falls under our responsibility. The neighbor's DIY work complicates things, but the rules and regulations clearly state. He cut me off. Rules can be interpreted in different ways. We need to consult with our lawyers to ensure we're not setting a dangerous precedent. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A dangerous precedent? What about the dangerous precedent of leaving a resident without basic living facilities for weeks on end? He just shrugged. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. We'll discuss it at the next meeting. I left feeling even more frustrated than before. It was clear that the HOA was more concerned about covering their own asses than actually helping their residents. Back at my disaster zone of a condo, I decided to talk to my neighbors. Maybe if enough of us complained, the HOA would have to listen. I knocked on doors, explained my situation. Most people were sympathetic, but few were willing to get involved. We don't want to rock the boat, one neighbor told me. What if we need something from the HOA in the future? I couldn't believe it. We were all paying dues to this association, and everyone was too scared to stand up to them. As the days dragged on, my frustration grew. I started documenting everything, every call, every email, every interaction with the HOA and the management company. If I was going to have to fight this, I wanted to be prepared. I even started researching local laws about condo associations and their responsibilities. It was dry, boring stuff, but I was determined to find something that would force them to act. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the day of the HOA meeting arrived. I showed up armed with my documents, ready for a fight. The meeting started with the usual boring stuff, budget reports, landscaping updates, all that thrilling HOA content. I sat there, fidgeting, waiting for my turn to speak. When they finally got to new business, I stood up. I've been living without a bathroom or bedroom for over a month now, I said, my voice shaking with anger and nerves. The rules and regulations clearly state that this is the HOA's responsibility. Why hasn't anything been done? The room went silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. The board members looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Finally, the board president spoke. We understand your frustration, he began, using that patronizing tone that made me want to scream. But we have to consider the long-term implications of our actions. Long-term implications? I repeated, incredulous. What about the short-term implications of me not having a place to shower or sleep? Another board member chimed in. We're concerned about setting a precedent. If we pay for these repairs, what's to stop other residents from making similar claims? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Similar claims? You mean other residents whose condos have been destroyed by faulty plumbing? Isn't that exactly what you should be responsible for? The room erupted into murmurs. I could see some of my neighbors nodding in agreement, while others looked uncomfortable. Look, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I'm not asking for anything unreasonable. I just want my condo repaired, as per the rules and regulations that we all agreed to when we moved in here. The board huddled together, whispering among themselves. After what felt like an eternity, they turned back to face the room. We've decided to approve the repairs, the president announced. But we want to make it clear that this is an exceptional case and doesn't set a precedent for future incidents. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Finally, something was going to be done, but my relief was short-lived. However, the president continued, we'll need to increase HOA dues to cover these unexpected expenses. The room erupted again, this time with angry shouts and protests. I couldn't believe it. They were going to make everyone pay for their own incompetence? As the meeting descended into chaos, I slipped out. I'd won the battle, but it felt like I'd lost the war. My condo would be repaired, but at what cost? The trust between the residents and the HOA was shattered. As I walked back to my still damaged condo, I realized this was far from over. The repairs would be done, eventually, but the deeper issues, the lack of transparency, the slow response times, the apparent disregard for residents' well-being, those would take much longer to fix. I unlocked my door, stepping over the now familiar sandbags I'd placed to contain the water damage. As I settled onto my couch, still my makeshift bed, I started planning my next move. Maybe it was time to run for the HOA board myself. After all, if you want something done right, but that's a story for another day. For now, I had a long-awaited shower to look forward to, even if I had to wait a few more weeks for it. If the situation is as you describe, you should be in the clear. The HOA sounds like they also off the hook, as it can be traced back to the neighbor's fault. Either way, give your insurance everything they need and want. It doesn't matter if the damage was from your negligence, your neighbor, the HOA, some other third party. Your insurance would cover your walls due to a covered peril, sudden water damage. Should include loss of use. Should also include the initial damage, drywall removal and drying everything. Your insurance will not cover repairs to the common area pipes or your neighbor's pipes. But it sounds like this was already fixed. Your insurance will subrogate from the at-fault party, the neighbor, and really their liability insurance. When they succeed, you will get your deductible back.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.